What if healing your body started with quieting the noise? On this episode of Eagles Don't Quack, Kim Ply, founder of Simply Fit Wellness, joins us to break down what real wellness looks like. Not the kind sold in ads, the kind built through breath, movement, and choosing to show up for yourself every day. Kim's journey mirrors the same awakening. For over 25 years, she's helped reach people, connect with their bodies, and redefine wellness on their own terms. From step aerobics instructor to integrative health coach, her mission has never changed. Keep it simple, keep it real, and keep it rooted in joy. Kim Ply, let's chop it up. How you doing, Kim?
Hey, Tony. I'm doing well. So happy to be here.
Good. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be here with us and our listeners, so I thank you for that. So let's get into it. Who is Kim Ply?
Well, I'm just a regular person, but I do find great joy in wellness. And as you already mentioned, keeping it simple, but I'll give you a little bit of my background. I had a pretty normal childhood, but even as a child, I was raised by parents who definitely prioritized movement. So I had that role model in my parents: healthy eating, community connection. My parents participated in a food co-op. I remember my mom making granola in the house, and their perspectives have changed over the years, right? There have been a lot of information throughout the years, but we also had the just kind of like the 70s and 80s growing up, right? We had it was different back then. We had Doritos and Diet Coke. Like, I remember getting that after school, and that was okay. So it was pretty normal and everything. But we also there was a big phase of fad dieting back in the 80s. I remember my parents talking about the Atkins diet, getting rid of all the carbs. Snackwell's cookies. Everybody thought that you had to be fat free for a while, and now we know that's not true. My mom did Jane Fonda workouts and the Firm workouts. I did those with her. So, that was definitely a lot of what I was surrounded by. And here's actually a funny thing that I wanted to share with you. I still remember my dad when we would get that carton of ice cream, and he was trying to teach us about portions and how much ice cream we were having. So he would cut it with a knife into 8 portions because there's 8 servings in that half gallon of ice cream. The boxes would fall off, would fold open. So anyway, I do really just feel like fitness became my life's calling because I recognized its impact on my own well-being. Like, I did have those role models, absolutely not perfect. I mean, we had candy, and like I said, Doritos, not such a great habit. That is still a vice that I try to stay away from. And just this background, I would say, sparked my overall interest in health and wellness at a young age.
I detect an accent in your voice. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Hagerstown, New Jersey, home of M&M Mars.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it's right around the corner from me. It smells like fried chicken.
How about that? So is that a rural town, or how big is that?
It is a small town, but they did have a train that would take you into the city. I didn't really go into the city much. I would call it a small town.
Well, I love how your dad and mom prioritize health and fitness. I'm from the South here in North Carolina, a rural county, and I often tell people that growing up, we were health conscious because we had to. We were farmers, the health craze that's going around now, being vegan and holistic eating. We did that naturally because we farmed. And it's funny how things swing back 360. And now that is the in vogue thing to do. When growing up in an agricultural state, that's what we just did. And so it's interesting to see that all the way in New Jersey, you guys are prioritizing the same thing around health and fitness and the type of food that you ate.
Yeah, I was really lucky because my mom would drive us to my grandma's house like about once a week. And that was about 20 minutes away in a neighboring town. And we would drop these gallon containers off at a farm, and they'd fill it with our non-pasteurized milk, non-homogenized. And I hope I'm correct on that. But anyway, this cream would rise to the top. And we would just bring it home, and my dad would skim off the cream and make whipped cream and things out of it. It was annoying for a while because they would buy carob instead of chocolate. But anyway, those messages were always there. So I did understand the value in that. Also, I just wanted to mention too, that over time, what had a big impact on me, just like seeing all these fads come and go through the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, that Fads are not sustainable. So that led me to embrace a more grounded approach
Mm-hmm.
and based on truth and simplicity. It really is simple. It's not rocket science. And also bringing in what I naturally have, which is a joy in connection.
Mm-hmm.
I just love sharing that passion with others.
So it sounds like as a child, you were influenced by a lot of these things that your parents presented. So let's move on up into your teenage years and your high school years where you're still shaping and forming your ideologies. Did fitness and health still stay with you through that time period? Or had Kim Ply started to think about what she wanted to do in the future?
Well, as a teenager, I'll just keep it simple right here. I was a gymnast, so, but only until I was about 15 years old. And then, I went through that few year phase in high school of being pretty rebellious. So I'd say I probably turned against it at that time, just, kind of seeking out my own way. But by the time I had graduated high school, I was already like, I would run 3 miles to the gym, work out. I'll just be real honest with you. I had in high school, I just fell into some of the little rebellious things, socially smoking cigarettes and stuff like that. But then it actually is kind of a profound aha moment. When I was 18, I'm working out at the gym and I'm on a treadmill, and I never liked smoking. It was really bad decisions just to do that. And I remember vividly thinking, why would I do that? Why would I smoke? And I stopped.
Well,
So
good for you.
yeah, I don't have an addictive personality or anything like that. So I just decided I gave it up. I was like, that's kind of stupid. Why would
Mm-hmm.
anybody do that? And I just stopped. That was, new decade.
Yeah, in some of our conversation, I recall you saying once you got to college, you became a teacher. Tell us
Yeah.
about that experience. What shaped you to want to go down that path?
Yeah. So my degree is actually in elementary education with a minor in communications. Um, I've always just had a love of kids. I'm a pretty nurturing person. I'm not like self-proclaiming that, but I always wanted to have a family. I thought it would be a, to have a family. Having, a focus on communications and being a teacher really deepened my understanding of different learning styles. It taught me empathy and the significance of fostering an inclusive environment for people. Lessons that I carry on to the mat during retreats and coaching sessions, understanding other people and having empathy that we are not all the same. We shouldn't all be the same. And it's funny that that love of elementary education transferred, because after all, aren't we all just adult children at
We
heart?
are. We're
That we
ever
need that
learning.
kind of
We're forever
understanding.
learning.
So that love of children taught me to incorporate that sense of playfulness into wellness. My parents are really playful. I
Hmm.
tell people sometimes when I'm teaching class, I have two very corny parents, so there was really no hope for me to not have a little bit. And we
That's
crave
funny.
community through
Yeah.
laughter and shared experiences. So let's just be real with each other.
So it sounds like the classroom helped shape or reinvigorate that fitness passions. How did help us understand this correlation? So now you're an educator, you're a teacher, but you're
Yeah.
also still adamantly involved in fitness and health. How did Simply Fit come about doing that part of your life? Was that an ongoing thing? Did it accelerate once you was in education?
Yeah. So it's pretty simple, actually. I started in New Jersey when I would like run to the gym when I had that aha moment, like, why would I smoke cigarettes? I'm on a treadmill. I'm just going to do this. This seems real to me. And then I learned I was just called up to teach like a muscle class or some type of class because the teacher wasn't feeling well. And then they like roped me into getting my certification as soon as I was teaching. And then it took me more than the normal amount of time to get through college just because I was working full time sometimes and part time sometimes. And so I always taught classes throughout college, water aerobics for this group of seniors, anybody who would pay me. And at the fitness center, I would teach like 3 classes a night, make money. And then even when I was a school teacher, I was still teaching a little bit at night, taught for a few years in the 4th grade. And then when I was connected through the fitness world just by staying in touch with that. I always just had a passion for it. I enjoyed it. And then when I had my son, I wanted to stay home. So I got more involved in teaching and classes. I ended up managing the exercise program at Gold's Gym. while I was teaching, but I needed to I was getting a little older. So in my 30s, I was really teaching a lot, and I was thinking I'm going to abuse my body. But not only that, I was abusing my voice. So I had a vocal cord cyst.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just decided that I wanted to also be a personal trainer. I could not yell as much. And I took a TRX group training session along with my personal training certification. And it was just a no brainer. I bought 4 TRXs. I hung them up in my gym. I painted, I cleared it all out. And I
Mm-hmm.
had my first clients there. Simply Fit was founded in January 2011.
So I hear a lot of fortitude and a lot of persistence and consistency. If for all the young ladies listening and women listening today, what would you tell them? What would you share with them being a boss, female boss, and chasing your dreams and finding ways to persevere, even though sometimes the circumstances weren't in your favor, but you continued and you pressed on? What would you share with some of the female listeners about they can do that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess as a woman, maybe we're taught to be small and be quiet. I don't think that's necessarily as much prevalent today as it used to be. That
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really my experience. I've always been pretty outgoing. But what I would say is be open. Be open. There are people that believe in you, believe in yourself, and it might not be the first person, but there are always, if you're open and share your warmth and your passion with the world, and if you have the energy to put into it, just don't quit. And it might not initially be where you thought you were going, where you think you're going, because I didn't think I was going to be doing this business. I thought I was going to be a school teacher. I was going to teach school for 30 years.
Yeah.
Well, and I thought it was going to be great to be a teacher and have a family. It wasn't really like that. I didn't want to not be home with my kids. So I just decided to do more and make it my own. I have the luxury too of I wouldn't be able to do this if I didn't have the luxury of being able to be at home and having the support of my spouse. So, yeah, I would just say be open, don't have an expectation, and see what shows up. And then also show up as your full self.
That's very good. Show up. Be
Show up,
authentic in yourself and show up for yourself. I
show
love
up.
that.
There will
We're
be
talking
people
to
there who
Kim
are like,
Fly, wellness without the noise. So, Simply Fit is birth.
yes,
What
2000.
is going on in your mind when you did that? Like, I am here. Now what's next?
I was really surprised actually, because when I decided to become a personal trainer, I felt quite a bit of resistance. Like it wasn't very welcoming. I went around to the gyms where I was teaching and I was going to make less per hour to train people. And I was like, I'm not doing that. Like my time is more valuable than that. And I had young kids. So, I just decided to do it on my own. And I didn't expect to get clients where I was teaching. I didn't market at all. I didn't have a website in the beginning. I didn't market. I think I put it on my Facebook page, and I started in my garage, and there were people that were taking my classes at the gym who were like, yeah, I want to come and do that. And I was like, oh, wow. I thought I would get people who don't already go to the gym and I would just be able to do this. But so that's another great message. Don't settle, because, and I was going to be paid like $20 an hour as a new trainer. I was like, I've got 15 years of experience. Why would I do that and hang around and for free to train people for free just to get clients? I was like, ain't nobody got time for that.
Well, that's finding that value in yourself that we're speaking about, right? Sometimes
Exactly.
people feel like they're in the box and they don't know how to get out of the box, but you just got to take that leap and jump out and see what happens sometimes.
You don't know what's going to happen. If you're stuck in a situation, and I wasn't stuck, my situation was fine, but if you feel stuck or you feel like you want to change, what are you waiting for?
That's right.
It's not going to happen if you don't try. Giving something up could be the best decision in finding something even better.
I love that. Finding purpose through wellness, Kim Ply. So your approach is grounded in simplicity and connection. Why does that matter? Why is that even important?
Well, there have been a lot of quick fixes that people offer, such as fads, that I've been through a ton of trainings. I've taught step aerobics, BOSU, TRX. There have been this diet, that diet, weight training. No one can force you to get well. So it actually is very simple. It's not rocket science. All you have to do is be consistent. That's the simple part. So move in a way that you love to move, something that brings you joy. If it's walking, start with that. If it's biking, start with that. It's not one size fits all. So the simple part is you can do absolutely anything. Just do it. And as far as nutrition is concerned, I'm a health coach. I'm not a dietitian, but I have tried all different things for myself just because I have a passion for it. There's not only one way to be healthy. Everybody's body, everybody's constitution is different. So if it means, you want to try being a vegan, well, hopefully you're going to try being a vegan with healthy food and not with just candy, because you could be a Skittles vegan.
I love what you're saying. I mean, a lot of our listeners, we reach a lot of people, but so many are in these remote areas. We call them
Mm-hmm.
food deserts of today.
Mm.
So speaking to some of our listeners that don't have access, and I'm sure some are like, what is BOSU? What is TRX? They probably Google and try to figure that out. But
Okay.
in simplicity terms, the things that you're saying is just move your body. How can they do some of these things when they don't have access to gyms or the nearest gym is 30, 40 miles away? What would you encourage them to do if we're talking about health and wellness and taking a proactive approach in your health? How can they do that when they don't have the resources or in a food desert? What would you recommend?
It's not expensive. Yeah, I mean, there are certain things that you can do that are expensive, like paying someone for their expertise, but there is a lot of free fitness out there. So a couple things that just popped into my head when you asked me that question. Number one, anybody can get outdoors. Unless you have a health condition where you can't walk outdoors, then you can just move your body. You could walk around your yard. Cleaning your own house can offer exercise. Now, that's really basic. Somebody's going to say, that's not exercise, though. You're not really helping me. Okay, what if it's snowing outside? I worked with a client and she couldn't afford to pay me anymore. And she's like, well, I can only, I can come once every couple weeks, but what else can I do? I can't join a gym. I can't afford one. All right, well, you can go to the mall. The mall opens for the walkers. You could find a group who wants to walk with you, or just do it on your own. Those little hand weights or anything, they're usually about $1 a pound. So 5-pound weights, $5. That's not expensive. If you can't even spend that much money, I'm sure you can find things to hold on to that weigh something, some books or something like that. I'm being really simple here, but so you can walk outside, you can walk at the gym. Let's talk about other kinds of free fitness. YouTube has all kinds of free content. My YouTube channel is not very active. I haven't updated in a while, but I put a ton of free content out there that are like 5-10 minute videos where you can just get active. I'm not the only one. There are thousands. Just search free 10-minute workout free.
Yeah.
Yoga by Adrian. That's free. You can do yoga on YouTube. So there are a lot of free resources. And I just want to say something about that too. When it comes to nutrition, it's not expensive to eat healthy. I mean, think about what you get. If you go to McDonald's, maybe you'll spend $10 on a meal. That sounds pretty inexpensive, right? Compared to going to a restaurant. But you could go to Food Lion. And I'm not talking just only eat vegetables, but you could get some vegetables. You could get a packet of tuna. That's about $2 for a packet of tuna. Sardines are really inexpensive, less than $1. These are very high quality sources of protein. And you can do it that way. You can eat for just as expensive as going to McDonald's.
So you have to be intentional and very disciplined in what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
So what you're saying is people that are in these food deserts, when you go to the grocery store, be intentional with your purchases. Stay away from that cookie aisle. Stay off of that cake and sugar aisle,
And people don't know how to cook. And neither do I. I do know how to, but I don't like it. So, yeah. I mean, what's it worth to you? It's your health, but I could probably eat healthy all day without cooking. And I'm not a raw food person. I do like cooked food, but like I mentioned, like a packet of tuna or protein bar, those are some really great things that you can eat. I'm not really a big advocate of juice, but maybe some kombucha at the grocery store if you're into that kind of going down that path, when it is, drinking things like that and going for the things that will change the constitution of your body, your pH levels and things like that. And then fruits and vegetables can be a little more expensive, right? They make things really cheap in like the chip aisle. and they have more calories, but they're not more nutrient dense.
Right.
So just like that, you could, sometimes I get packets of, I'm a pescatarian
Mhm.
actually. So,
Mhm.
but I get the packets of tuna, so I don't even eat chicken or beef, and that's not really from a health standpoint. It's more of an ethical standpoint. But there are a lot of things that you can get that you don't have to cook.
You are speaking blasphemy right now, and I know some
I'm
listeners are
sorry.
throwing stuff at the radio saying, "No, I want
I
my
accept
fried
them.
chicken."
I accept them, but chicken
But
is a
this
high inflammatory food.
Yeah, we're talking to Kim Ply, Wellness Without the Noise. We're just trying to help you. You know, I was standing here thinking about you saying being intentional with the things that you do. I remember growing up when we didn't have weights, we would use cinder blocks and we would
Right.
use those as our weights, and we use water jugs. And I remember we wanted a bench set, but we couldn't afford it. And we had, everybody had a bunch of cars, and some that worked, some that didn't. And we would take the car axles from under the cars that didn't work, and that axle weighed about 50 pounds, and we would
Okay.
bench press the car axle. And then we would put the cinder blocks on the end of the car axle. So you make it work with whatever you had. And I remember doing that. So you may not have to do that today, folks, but what she's saying is whatever you have, make sure you can utilize it to your best interest. We all have
Your
something,
body
whether it
weight.
is that 2.5 pound book that you can curl, or the broom handle that you can squat. Be intentional with your movements. I like
Just
that,
body
Kim.
weight will get you very far. Even just body weight.
Just body weight. There's a lot of noise. You just mentioned them a few moments ago. There's a lot of noise in the industry, all kinds of gadgets and fads and
Mm.
things that just get people to just want to buy stuff and no functionality in it all. How do you balance all this noise when you have a client come to you and they're full of or inundated with all these things they saw on TikTok or the internet? How do you balance all this noise in the wellness industry, and what's your philosophy about all of it?
There's always something new. It's a multi-million-dollar industry. So I am not a big advocate for trackers. If you need that, then think, okay, so how to balance it? How much value is this going to have to you? How can you, if what I would tell someone is they say, my Apple Watch is tracking, or I heard about this Aura ring, or I think I need to get a weighted vest now. Every middle-aged woman now is walking in a weighted vest. I
Yeah,
have one too. There's nothing wrong with weight vests. These are all good things. But think about your lifestyle. What is going to give you the most impact? What is going to fit in your life? I'm really simple. I one time had a Fitbit and I was extremely addicted to it. It didn't make me healthier. I had that Fitbit and I wanted to get my steps. So I would go for a walk with my dogs, which was not really very good exercise, instead of going to my yoga class, or even instead of going to my strength class. So I would guard against thinking that a gadget is going to make you healthier. If it helps you and your awareness, then try one thing and stay committed to that one thing, but you don't need a lot.
I love that. You don't need a lot.
You
Keep it
don't need a
simple.
lot.
Simply fit. Keep it simple. Let's switch pages here. Let's talk about your personal wellness journey.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, back in 2021, I was diagnosed with a rare stage 4 lymphoma.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna share a little tea. I'm gonna share this with you, Kim Plaza. Y'all getting some tea from Tony right now that nobody knows. I'm gonna share it. And so my stage 4 cancer battle is ongoing. And there was my original area that we constantly deal with. So through the chemotherapy, through the CAR T therapy, all of that didn't give us the results that we wanted. And so we had this surgery a couple months ago after
Mm-hmm.
4 years that we had been avoiding, and come to find out when we took the original lymph node out that was still showing activity, I found out that I had 2 types of cancer and not just one. So there are 2 types of lymphoma. You have non-Hodgkin's and you have Hodgkin's. How about I had both? My original source was never non-Hodgkin's. It was always Hodgkin's, and it masked itself as if it was non-Hodgkin. So when we had the chemotherapy and the CAR T, it was in fact attacking what it thought was 96% non-Hodgkin's, but it was Hodgkin's lymphoma. And that was equally rare and equally aggressive. So I'm a rare species of person that has both Hodgkin's and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and didn't even know it. And so what we're saying, and when we're talking about health and fitness, I remember a conversation I had with my doctor. He said, if you weren't as fit as you are, this would be a totally different conversation. And so Kim is here to help us understand a fitness journey and how can we be proactive in taking control. You may not have cancer, but you may have high blood pressure, you may have diabetes, cholesterol, something. But in our conversation prep, you mentioned that your dad was diagnosed with cancer.
Mm-hmm.
How did that impact you as a daughter and the love that you have for your father when you heard those words for the first time?
It was, I've always felt invincible, and I get that from my dad. He is an invincible person. He has always been just, pushing forward, a little bit crazy, just doing all these, living his life, and it never seemed like anything would happen. Well, I would say that hearing that news, it opens your eyes to the preciousness and the fragility of life. It can affect anyone because, my parents had a healthy lifestyle. I lead a healthy lifestyle. Tony, you lead a healthy lifestyle. So it really can help. It can affect anyone. It's not your fault. And my father was diagnosed with stage C prostate cancer by his urologist. He had ignored a warning from his doctor. I don't know if I don't want to get anything wrong, but I think it was like he had a little bit of an alert on his PSA from his doctor about 5 years prior to that. And they said, come back in a year. And he said, okay. And he went back 5 years later. I'm kind of like that too. I really don't like to go to doctors. So I am a lot like my dad in that way. And the doctors wanted to give, there are a lot, you can ask for multiple different opinions. And what it comes down to is a little bit of faith, taking charge of your own health, discovering what resonates with you on a personal level, what makes sense. There's not just one right answer. As in your experience, they couldn't even see the kind that you had. So I know you have a lot of faith, Tony. But if a doctor suggests something that doesn't sit well with you, it's perfectly okay to question it. Ask a lot of questions. There are amazing people who are there to help you, but it's your body. You're the one who has to live with the outcome. So to that point, my father refused radiation, chemo, or surgery. Yeah, he's got some viewpoints. They're not going to burn me, poison me, or cut me. But he had to go full force in another direction, like full force. I don't know what I would do. I don't know that many people could do it. Not eating out, not eating any irregular food, juicing. He followed the Gerson method. He went down to an alternative clinic in Mexico, even though they really don't have the financial freedom to be able to spend their own money on things, but they had to. And he shrunk his tumor in half. So I definitely wanted to share that. Props to my dad.
Yay.
He's still doing that. He still does his own treatments. He listens to a lot of podcasts and a lot of information. You have to be careful with sometimes podcasts and check your information, and it hasn't been without flaws. There have been some issues. He's run into things because he fasts. He's done 21-day fasts. If you're starving yourself, you can have other problems with your heart muscle and things like that. So I'm not dispensing any medical advice here, but there's not just one right answer. You have to weigh the outcomes against the risks involved, and you have the right to ask questions.
Absolutely. I circled the word faith. I'm a huge faith person. The Bible says faith without works is dead.
That's right.
So if you don't activate on the faith that you have, and we are not medical professionals, we're just sharing our opinions, but your dad activated on his faith that he can make himself whole.
Right.
I activate upon my faith that I believe that the God I serve can work through man and technology, but also holistically, I took a proactive approach to travel down that path as well to heal myself. In addition to faith is extremely important because without it, we lose hope. And how I wanted to ask you, I think that helped shape your view on an holistic approach and how you look at healing. How did that change that for you?
Yeah, I've always had a more holistic approach. I do go to the doctor. My kids are vaccinated. I received all my vaccines as a child, but in general, I try to live a healthy lifestyle, to eat clean. so that I don't end up with these problems. I do take quite a few supplements. I take a lot of vitamins because I believe our food source is not rich. It is kind of void of nutrients. And I believe in eating organic. So those are a few things. I just kind of rattled off a few things there, but I take a more holistic approach in, again, grounded in simplicity. You have to practice what you preach. If you say you're a healthy eater, I mean, there is an 80-20 rule, right? You can indulge once in a while, but what you put in your body is truly feeding you, is truly, you are what you eat.
Mhm.
So educate yourself on that. It doesn't have to be complicated. If you have some base knowledge on that, start there. Track, be very honest with yourself on what you're doing, and move your body. Move your body not in a way that is making you feel guilty or like you have to or forcing anything, but move your body in a way that brings you joy, because joy is part of it. So if you hate your exercise program, you're still improving your heart muscle and things like that, but you're probably not going to be getting better, or you're probably
Right.
not going to be fending off disease because you're not feeding your soul. So just find something you love to do. If it's yoga, if it's strength training, if it's walking, if it's dancing,
Mhm.
you could dance in your house to strengthen your cardio muscles. There's someone on YouTube. It's called Fitness Marshall. I did that during the pandemic with like my daughter and her friends, and it's just a lot of fun. And I can't
You
dance.
know, I think one of the toughest aspects to anything or any challenge that a person faces is their mental capacity and their mental health. Like
Hmm.
growing up, we didn't know what that meant. In our communities, mental health was you just stressing out.
Yeah.
But that stressing out would lead to indulgence of foods that you shouldn't be eating, or
Hmm.
smoking, or drinking, or some kind of behavior that is offensive to your body. But
Hmm.
today we understand more about mental health and what that is. And I know for me, that is a challenge. No matter what your modality is, your mind has to be strong to get through it. Your
Yes.
mind has to fight off depression and fear and anxiety. And when you don't know how to diagnose that and deal with that and how to release that in some kind of way, it manifests itself in disease.
That's right.
Disease is a state of uncomfortableness. Your body is telling you something is not right. And so
Dis-ease.
dis-ease, and it is exactly what it is. You know, we had a deep conversation, you and I, about mental health. What does mental health mean for you, and how do you overcome those challenges? I know you have experienced some of that if you want to share, but what does mental health mean to you?
Hey, this is a new topic for me because I have always felt very mentally strong. I have a pretty strong will, which probably was what made me kind of a rebellious teenager. My son is 22. He struggles with mental health. And when that first started happening about 4 years ago, it was so foreign to me. I didn't know what it was. I knew there was a lot of chatter about, and I heard other people talking about mental health, mental health. And I was like, okay, I don't really understand this. I don't know what people are talking. It's been around a lot longer than that. I just hadn't had any
Mhm.
experience with it. I've personally never had any bouts with severe depression or anything. Although now I do know, I do believe it. It's very real. It's just like any other disease. I have to remind myself that mental health struggles, chemical imbalances are very real. It's not anyone's fault. It's not the person's fault who's going through it. It's not the people around them that caused it. And this is daily reminders for me. I blame myself sometimes. And even though I know that I shouldn't, I didn't know anyone with this before. And I may have even judged them or wondered what those parents had done wrong to mess up their child. But witnessing someone that I love go through such a profound struggle that's completely out of his control has completely shifted my perspective. And I've learned the importance of empathy, the value of surrendering to the process of healing, both for him, myself, my family, and accepting people for who they are. So Just like any other illness, just like cancer that we don't fully understand, we don't fully understand mental health issues. And you can support someone that you love without fully understanding what they're going through. It's all about empathy. It's about compassion. It's about presence. And it's about being quiet and holding space for someone. I love the name of your podcast, Eagles Don't Quack.
Hmm.
And I mean, it's so true. The more chatter we have, it's just noise.
Yeah.
It's just noise. We're not holding space for other people, offering compassion, recognizing the struggles of people when we're chattering about it. So sometimes just being quiet. And that's what I really love to do, to lead in yoga and meditation, is holding space. I was really bad at that about 5 years ago. I couldn't sit still. And now it's one of my favorite formats to teach. I love to be a student in holding space. I attend other people's classes in meditation and stillness. And so that whole message of holding space and mental health, I think it's so important. And when you sit with yourself in silence, in quiet, the answers will come, but you
Yes.
have to make space.
It is a spiritual process. In the church, we talk about that often, that you stand still.
Mm-hmm.
You stand still and you ground yourself, you be quiet and you listen. That comes, you mentioned your dad fast and he does all these things, and it is a reset for your body, but it's also a reset spiritually for you too, because you are eliminating those background noises and you're focusing on hearing what God or your creator has to say or to share with you. And you can't do that with a bunch of noise. You can't do that with people chirping and quacking. It's
And I
just
have a
called,
lot of noise in my life. Don't we
yeah, a
all?
lot of noise, right? Noise. We
Yeah.
are surrounded and inundated by noise. And I think more than anything else, people don't know how to get away from that. They don't know where to go or how to do that, which is a good segue, because you also have a company that you do retreats,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Hmm.
And for our
I love it.
listeners out there, that is a way that you can try to escape. But here's the rub. What do you do when you can't afford that, Kim? So you say, be still and meditate. That is a way. But I also see the joy in some of if you guys hadn't, find her on Instagram at Simply Fit, and you can see some of the pictures and photos and the smiles that people have. But if you don't have the resources and you can't do those things, how can people find that without the resources? How can they get
Community.
away? And yeah.
Community. So you mentioned the church. So if you're involved with a church group, you can create this space for yourself with people, and it doesn't just need to be your friends. Sometimes I have a couple friend groups, and sometimes with my friend groups, that is not where I find the space. I find a lot of joy with those friend groups, but that is not necessarily where I find the space to reset, the space to recalibrate. So I would recommend that if there's any type of outreach that someone can do, or not really outreach, but organization. So if you are affiliated with a group and you could start something, I promise there are people just like you. Hey guys, I would like to start a meditation group. I don't know how to do it. Who wants to join me? And maybe it doesn't even have to be called meditation, breath work. Who would like to join me? Let's just do it together and figure it out. And then, like I said, there's lots of free resources. You can go on YouTube. You can just search meditation. You can play around with it. It is as simple as sitting still and breathing. I only tell you that, and you are already doing breath work. If you set a timer on your phone, if you don't have a phone, most people have a phone. If you don't have a phone, you set a timer anywhere, and your little egg timer, your oven, and you say, I'm going to sit for 15 minutes. Set that timer and just sit still. When a thought comes into your mind, a distraction, a to-do list, what am I going to do next? Oh my goodness, that person that annoyed me right before I got here. Oh, I can't believe I forgot to do that. Accept it. Oh, that thought just came in. Send it away.
That's
You're going
right.
to sit still and not think about that. And the more space you clear and send away those distractions, there's some different feelings and answers that begin to erupt. And don't keep a notepad there. Don't write it down when those answers come to you. You can do that after. Oh, wow, I can't believe, like, while I was sitting there meditating and you didn't even know you were meditating, you were just sitting still and breathing in quiet. You
I
don't
think sometimes people do that and they don't know they're doing it. I think sometimes I am very familiar with people going on vacations and they're going places, but they're not getting the release that they're looking for. Because if you ask them, what did they do? I went here, and what did you do? Oh, we went to a restaurant. They would do the same things that they would do at home. They just did it somewhere else. And I think
right.
educating people on how to, you may not have to go to exotic locations, but maybe you can glamp in your backyard or say, hey, we're going to go in the woods and we're going to spend the night, or we're going to go to
That's right.
the local lake. Being intentional, that's what we're talking about. But taking that spot that you're going to and finding the richness in it, and not just the local restaurant. How can you share with people that? Because I think when you find your destinations, you're very intentional on where
Hmm.
you're going and what you're looking for, right?
Right. So it's funny that you say that, like you could just do this right at home. I wanted to touch on that first
Mm-hmm.
because it just popped into my head. And I know those of you out there, they're listening. I know you can relate. I have a big problem with letting my cell phone go. If I leave the house and I don't have my cell phone, I'm leaving for 15 minutes to go to the store, and there's like a feeling of panic. We are so connected to our devices. And what happens? I open up my phone to check something. I'm like, oh, I want to see if that person texted me. Well, I have a list, Instagram, Facebook. I mean, you could turn off your alerts,
Mm-hmm.
but that email came in. Well, what did that person say? And suddenly there's the noise, there's the chatter, there's the quacking, and you cannot get any peace. So something as simple as leaving your cell phone behind. If you don't feel comfortable doing that when you go to the store, now that my daughter's at college, I don't think that I need to respond to any emergencies. I finally started leaving my phone outside the room when I go to my yoga class. Shame on me. I was putting it right at the top of my mat and I had that buzz and I'm like, why am I checking my cell phone during yoga?
But Kim,
There's
listen,
nobody who needs me.
what did we do before cell phones? Do you remember those days when there was
I remember.
no? What did we do? How did we make it?
Well, if someone said they were going to meet me at the mall at 3 o'clock at the pizza place, and I showed up at 3 o'clock and I was maybe with another friend and they weren't there, we waited for a few minutes and then we found them or we didn't. And there
Yeah.
was no resentment. There was no comparison. Comparison's the thief of joy. Comparison is the thief of joy. So we weren't comparing. We weren't on Facebook trying to message them, find them, text them. Why aren't you here when you said you were going to be? I am guilty as the next person. I am not preaching to anyone, but we can all work on it in different ways. So just as simple as turning off your cell phone, that can create space for you. I'm not sure if that answered your question.
It did. I mean, how when you're choosing your locations,
Oh,
that
locations.
you
Yeah.
are very intentional with that. What's that selection process like?
So the way that what I look for in retreats and what I can describe that the experience is for guests is that they show up, they let go of decision fatigue. They don't have to decide. Everything has been planned for you. You don't have to decide. I mean, you can decide if you want to, come to one of our sessions or one of our classes, or if you want to sleep in a little bit, or if you just want to read a book, but everything's planned for you. So it's not the same as going on vacation by yourself or with your family or with your best friend, because you're not like, oh, what are we going to do next? Oh, where should we go here? Let's go see this. Let's go out to dinner. You're just showing up. You just show up and let things happen. We're on a hike. Maybe you're quiet. Maybe you're just looking around. It's extremely peaceful. The locations I look for are typically located in blue zones. And what blue zones are, it's not anything that's been created. There are places around the world where people naturally live longer by about 10 years. It's been studied in science. There's a Netflix documentary. Most people have Netflix. It's about the blue zones. Costa Rica, Sardinia, Italy, Okinawa, Japan, Loma Linda, California, and Greece. Where I was just in Greece, we were near a blue zone. So blue zones are one. And what is a blue zone? It's not just that the place has any type of magic, but there are a few things that are happening in these places. People are living as a community. So that's one. They typically live with children, parents, grandparents. So the grandparents have a sense of purpose. Usually they're helping raise the kids while the parents are working and things like that. The children are also helping. The children are helping, in the kitchen and things like that. They are living off the land. They don't have dumbbells. They're not lifting weights. They
Mm-hmm.
are just, they're going out. They're getting natural light. They might be walking to work. In Sardinia, Italy, they scrape the salt off of the rocks where the ocean is, and that's what they're eating. So Why
Wow.
is their food better than ours? It's natural. It hasn't been manufactured. And yeah, there is downtime. They have joy. So there's joy, there's community, families, and movement. Healthy food, healthy natural food.
So what makes retreats so powerful compared to traditional fitness or coaching models?
It's a good reset. It's a good recharge. I like to look at myself as your guide on the side. So a lot of times what I will hear from retreat participants is, Kim, you bring the best people together. You bring the best people together. I just had the best time getting to know people. And even if you're not a social butterfly, people who are very introverted experience this too. And I always say, I didn't do it. You did it.
How about
I
that?
didn't do that. I'm not the great and powerful Oz.
Hmm.
You did it. You showed up and you were calm. You were separated from the distractions of your everyday life where you have to go to work, you have to go to the gym, you go to your family, you've got someone who needs you to clean up, you've got to walk your dog, and you just didn't have any of those responsibilities, and you showed up with like-minded people and you just let yourself get to know them. You got to know yourself a little bit better and the things that you enjoyed. And it's not even really about any specific activity. We offer yoga, we offer meditation. I guide you through those things that I love and hopefully teach you those skills that you can take home with you. So in just a few days, you can kind
Hmm.
of reset your lifestyle and notice what you want to take away from that.
So when you give, and give, it seems like you provide all these things for people and you're constantly giving back. I refer to it all the time as angel work. There are certain
Mhm.
people that get to choose and then those that are chosen. I feel like you are chosen.
Thank
Who
you.
pours back into Kim Ply? When the
Yeah,
cup is empty, where do you
that's a
go to
good
get your
question.
fill?
Sometimes I do feel it. Sometimes I love to teach, so that is not draining for me. Sometimes the have tos after that, like having to like circle back, answering texts is very draining for me. I get a lot of texts. The connections are not draining, but I do fill my own cup. I have a very regular yoga and mindfulness practice. I attend other people's classes 5 to 6 times a week, in addition to the classes that I teach. So even though in some of the classes that I teach, I'm not physically really exhausting myself. Some of them, a couple of them I am. So those I don't really go take other people's classes, but especially the ones where I'm teaching yoga, that is not my yoga practice. If you're not a yogi, that's okay. But my favorite thing about yoga and what sold me on it was that it's quiet, it's dark. Tony, you know me, I'm really talkative. It forces me to quiet myself. It's really not going to be someplace where if I'm talking, it's not going to be a conversation. So I've learned to be quiet, and I find that peace and that space and that reset, I just feel so amazingly recharged. I also feel recharged teaching, but
Yeah.
I have to get away from people sometimes to recharge. And that's my practice. I do it on my own. Also walking, getting outdoors and walking.
I feel that way too. I think sometimes we don't know how to find that solace with ourselves to recharge. When there's not a person that can do it, you can be refilled on your own. There's certain things that you can do, is certain practices that you can, I think sometimes the more I give or when I help someone, it inadvertently fills my cup and then I can do it again. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But it's those times when you're going through your lowest moments that you really need to be quiet and let God refill you. In your retreats, can you think about a time or a moment that you said to yourself, this is why I do this?
Yeah, there have been many moments like that. Specifically, though, one comes to my mind, and it was just last year on our Sedona retreat. We were in Sedona, Arizona for the second time. So this year it will be the third time we're going next month. There's still space if anybody wants to join. And there was a powerful moment that was a very eye-opening moment to me because I believe I just wasn't noticing. I don't always notice what other people are going through on the retreat, their own personal journey. And there was a powerful moment when our group set out to hike this steep cathedral rock. It's less than a mile. It's pretty straight up. There's some scrambles and Having done this hike several times myself, I was excited to reach the top. I was really excited because it's very extremely beautiful up there. And I wanted to share this with everyone. I thought they're going to be so excited when they get up there. I'm going to show them the best views. They're going to get such great photos and they're just going to be so happy. I was really excited to share that with them. However, two of the guests on our retreat, and I would probably describe them, if our friend Jerome is listening to this, besides our friend Jerome, two of the other very most fit people on the retreat, very already healthy, fit. One is a marathon runner. The other one works out on a regular basis, very close friend of mine. They didn't even know each other, these two people I'm about to share with you. And I hope they don't mind me sharing, but I don't think they will, because they were very wrapped in love in this moment. They froze. They just happened to be near each other. There was a group of us climbing up, overwhelmed, and one of them starts crying. This is an athlete, more of an athlete than me. And I'm like, I love to hike. Let's go see the sights. And the other one starts crying. They're shaking. Other members of the group paused to support them. They took time to offer encouragement and comfort. And I was so impressed by how quickly participants who had just met 2 days before that, they didn't know each other, they came together to uplift those who seemed to be the strongest. So like the strongest members of our group found it was like a mental block in climbing that cliff. They hadn't done anything like that, even though they were really physically fit. And this experience truly reminded me of the importance of connection.
Yeah.
The unseen struggles that we all face and how crucial it is to support one another through these unexpected moments. They didn't expect it. They're also on these hikes. Like, it's probably like me going on a retreat. I hike. I love to hike. You just don't know when you're going to need somebody else. And we also don't know when our strength might help someone else, especially someone that we never thought would need it. So
I'm
that
getting
was,
excited because I am a byproduct of that. And for our listeners today, we're talking to Kim Ply, Wellness Without the Noise. You know, when I was diagnosed with cancer, you didn't know me.
no, I didn't.
And I do believe God puts people in your timeline for however long they need to be there. And you and others jumped, and, you know, I'm a strong man. I don't ask anybody for anything. I lead people, have businesses, and I employ people. And that broke me. And right at the height of COVID. And it was people like Kim Ply, who was literally someone that I didn't know, jumped in and say, hey, you a friend with this person and I'm a friend with them. So you all right with me? What you need? Let's do this. And to my listeners, this woman raised money for me. She offered a free retreat on my behalf. That's angel work. And I think sometimes we lose our ability to resonate with humanity, right? We've become so tribal that we don't see each other as human beings. We see each other as something else, whether it's an affiliation with this or that, but you don't see that. And what you're saying, I lived, and I can verify it with the listeners that what she's saying is who she is. And so thank you for that. I want to say thank you, Kim Ply, for that.
Thank you. It's an honor. And I mean it. I remember that time. And I remember two of our friends, one of especially telling me about you. He's an athlete. He's this, he's that. And I'm like, okay, I'm very busy.
Yeah.
I don't have time. Yeah. Okay. I believe you. I'm sure he's great. And then as soon as this was like, takes the time to share another story, and you know them and you love them and you trust them, and they tell you that this is going to make a difference. Sometimes it's just that leap of faith. And it didn't really matter to me. I was having my own struggle in filling a retreat. And so I decided, okay, and it was approached to me, this can help you, this can help him. And it kind of did. The retreat still didn't fill. It was more important. That piece of it was more important to me than the type of business outcome. And business is good. Business is fine. But it's really people who are what matters.
Yeah. Well, thank you for people thinking a person like me mattered. And
You
that's
do matter.
why Eagles don't quack. Everybody matters. Let's lighten this up a little bit in our, we're coming down the home stretch here. I've definitely enjoyed this. You want to do a rapid fire real quick?
Let's do it.
All right. So One wellness myth that needs to go away.
It's all about diet and exercise. Let that go. It is not all about diet and exercise. While nutrition and physical activity are vital, wellness encompasses mental, emotional, social well-being. If you add those in and you focus on those, they are equally important for your overall health. Your body won't feel good, won't let go of excess weight and inflammation if it's under stress, if it's under that fight or flight response, if you're not sleeping well. Your overall well-being is more important than diet and exercise. If you're not sleeping well, eating well, taking care of your emotions, you'll not be able to meet your other physical goals.
Sound advice. Another one, a daily habit you won't skip.
I never skip my sleep routine.
And what is that?
If any of my friends are listening to this, they know this is true. Restful and restorative sleep, in my opinion, is the most important aspect of wellness. The second would be mindful movement, but I said sleep. You asked me for one. So sleep is the most important. And I take magnesium baths a couple times a week. I go to bed at the same time every night. I don't drink water 2 hours before bedtime because I don't want to have to get up and use the restroom. I want to sleep all night. It doesn't always work, but okay. So maybe it's a habit, maybe it's obsession, but sleep is the number one.
Sleep is number one. Favorite way to recharge? I think we know what this would be.
Spending time in nature or in a yin yoga class. I love being a student as well as a teacher. And also magnesium baths.
Right now, what does living well means to Kim Plott?
Living well means embracing balance, nurturing authentic connections, and continuously seeking personal growth, and especially joy in everyday moments.
You heard it here on the Eagles Don't Quack. Kim, where can people find you? How can they reach Kim Plott?
SimplyFitWellness.com, Simply Fit Wellness on Instagram and Facebook, and also on LinkedIn.
So next retreat, we have some spots open?
We do. Sedona is a long weekend in September. So September 19th through 23rd. Very local. If you're local to North Carolina, you can drive right out to Hatteras Island of the Outer Banks. It's 4 hours away from Raleigh. If people are located, and that's just 3 nights. So that's the easiest one. And we've got Costa Rica coming up in the fall. It's Blue Zone.
All right. Hey, y'all check it out.
Yeah.
Kim Plott, Simply Fit. You can find us on 103.5 and 1520 AM, and you can stream us on WARRradio.com. Kim, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Tony.
I look forward to doing this again.
I adore you. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.